no feeling, no discrimination, no preconceived practice, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element, and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and half. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell on the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequal, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering should be known as the truth since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared, Jayata, Gate, Gate, Paragate, Parasangate, Bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva, Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage. It is like that, it is like that. One should practice a profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoiced. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. To page 25, the short mandala. Sanje Shinde Mide Ewaye Draga Nanda Shenla Chupa Shu Lumba Jinam Ji Chuga Gala Jinde Dinde Jeda Zambe Duje Saje Chuji Chawa Abdu Guru Rane Mindela Kamni Yataya Sanje Chodan Soji Chanam Chanjo Bada Dani Jasam Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Ji Dola Penji Sanje Dubara Sanje Chodan Soji Chanam Chanjo Bada Dani Jasam Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Ji Dola Penji Sanje Dubara Sanje Chodan Soji Chanam Chanjo Bada Dani Jasam Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Ji Dola Penji Sanje Gange Denjun Dewa Jong Gawa Mewa Jimewa Chewa Mewa Tamewa Owa Mewa Damewa Tade Deme Jime Dewa Nishi Shinewa Zobe Sanje Mananji Namudu Donye Nyenje Sande Jobe No Shije Zinze Kanje Dendru Chana Gama Dinze Jazo Sowa Deza Jinde Nendo Sho Pandenda Lamaram Bojen Dagi Jiro Bende Dijene Godin Chimbe Kunayas Uzondo Jengo Doze Dezo Ayada Zukuno Yabo Jiro Tewe Dindi Shinole Tendani wa Taretamshi Sta Niga Jila Nangelo da Tsudi Suni Jinshaw Bumba Chawashin Yinzukun Yumbulambelas Tewe Dindi Shinole Tendani wa Taretamshi Tangan the Milu Dindi Ne Tare Indeji Nieva de Ta Niega wa Jibalawa Ta Dinde Yindu Mezidi Ta Ludin Chawajin de Tendan de Bachigi Station to Tering chunye diya ane ranji goge diduk duya mayin ba chede joshin samje tamje ge diduk duya chede chunye ge yu samje ne techi kuno chanju semgi simbaji kuno ya go setup shosra
assuming that correct motivation where we see this body of leisure more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel is found but once, so difficult to obtain again. It finishes as quickly as lightning in the sky. In that sense, the perfect human rebirth that we do have is extremely difficult to get. And at the same time, it is easily lost. It is impermanent. So with that in mind, one should listen to the teaching by making that perfect human rebirth meaningful, by having the attitude of bodhicitta.
aya da gawa kom tirin yang lam rim tole ya thoba samba chi yu chunga de mune ge wa sambo ya bu yin ku ga ya bu yin chen ro
Now rejoice, thinking just today one has the fortune to hear and reflect on the Lam Rim. What a fortunate, great opportunity.
야, 다 근데 그 겨우 상고 해야 되다. 담배다고 또 뭐좀 되네. 저거 지금 단다사고 수수 대회라마 바로 그네. 뭐든 주베라마 되게 상마 쳐주. dunyi nangala shou yu ten de teda kusung tobe chinlap lamrim dokwa chinlap tende ma ju lu yung tende su su lu la ma jigwe se chinlap di we di rekwa samji ane su su sem nangi ane chi lam jewa ge toba namdo lokwa dige tsangma pa ta je ane su su sem ju le ya lamrim ge dokwa ju le je ya ge ane chi chinlap jewa je nyuwa jewa tende shi de 충성 전신병안에 안에 직진의 마 데스티네이션 아승텐 당고 데스 콤딕스 잡나야고다
Reflecting again on the fortune of connecting with this Dharma, coming from Shakyamuni Buddha right down to one's root Lama, in that context, in the space in front of oneself, are the direct and lineage gurus bestowing oneself with the blessings of the Lam Rim, in dependence on one's faith and meditation. The blessings come down into one's body in the form of light, pervade the body, and then into the mind, the realizations come in the sense that they purify any obstacles to realizing Lam Rim, any misunderstandings, and lastly, one is blessed by that lineage and the insights contained therein with the Lam Rim. Please meditate for a few seconds on this before we recite.
야, 나 지금 막 르르 싶던다. 네. 기승나 시제 반 마시 된다라.
So once again, as we did last time, reciting together and then diverse on Guru devotion 3 times. I bow my head to you, foremost of Sakyas, whose body is formed by 10 million perfections, virtues, and excellence, whose speech fulfills the hopes of infinite transmigratory beings, whose mind perceives all objects of knowledge, I prostrate to Manjushri and Latreya, whose emanations sport in the universe, assuming the responsibility of all
senze shinye na na zamne ke wo yu ge su ge yin be pa de do na lu du tong mi ni ne yu jin de le du li ge chen ju lam je ren ba ni ju wo de de ma le fong ma da da ma ren je ong ge ju shung san dong ge chu de le je ben de le wa shu de zo ni dong ba de ge ne da so ra ma le da ba cha wa na je we hu ma de la ni ye je chen bo nya sa le je je we ge we je wa na ken de te ma de be la ma Ira me do je de ze yin ji su ra gu ni ning bo de de su de tu re de na yin be de tan ju che dan tu pen yuan so la jen du wa ni ne di ji le ze xin ye de le wa de za wa de la de xin ye ta ma de Sometimes we rest in that.
Crown ornaments of the
Tony
light
so
of
Jiang Jin
heaven,
Yang Mi Dong, Gai Xin
and
Dui Wei
planets
Chu
of
Wa Ni
fire
Jin, Ji
displayed
De Le
in
Men
contrast like earthly beings. This instruction
Ah,
quickly
Jo,
confounds
Yan
fools,
Dong, Yan De Jin Le
fulfills
Zu De
all
Jin, De Jin
desired
Le
aims
Zu
of
De
the
Jin.
nine types of beings.
Ne Di Ji
The
Le Zu Jin
dispersion
Yu,
of
Den De Le Ba
glorious
Ze,
effects
Ka
of
Lan
the
De Xin Yan
resurrection,
Dong Ma, Sometimes
gathering
we rest in
millions of
that.
a thousand times
Tony so Ji
scriptures,
Qian Mi De, Gai Xin Dui Chu Wa Ni
collectively
Jin.
realize that all the teachings are without contradiction. Understand all the scriptures as an instruction, easily find the intention of the conqueror, and be protected from the abyss of very faulty conduct. Therefore, this supreme instruction is relied on by many fortunate ones, the wise beings of India and Tibet. What analytical person would not be captivated by the stages of heart of the three types of beings? Contemplate the meaning of this method that gathers the essence of all the scriptures. Even teaching or hearing a single session definitely gathers great weight, but the assembled benefits are explained by listening to the Holy Dharma. Rely correctly and with effort and thought and action on the holy spiritual friend, the teacher of the path, and the foundation perfectly bringing auspiciousness for all the excellent collections of this and future lives. Having seen this, do not give him up, even at the cost of your life, and please him with the offerings of practicing just as they instruct. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Rely correctly and with effort in thought and action on the holy spiritual friend, the teacher of the path, and the foundation perfectly bringing auspiciousness for all the excellent collections of this and future lives. Having seen this, do not give him up, even at the cost of your life, and please them with the offering of practicing just as they instruct. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Rely correctly and with effort in thought and action on the holy spiritual friend, the teacher of the path, and the foundation perfectly bringing auspiciousness for all the excellent collections of this and future lives. Having seen this, do not give him up, even at the cost of your life, and please them with the offering of practicing just as they instruct. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way.
Ai, Da De Ne Xin Yin De De, Sa Sum Jo Ne Yan De Le Gom Des Jab Lo. Tian Sai, Ane Dan Ne Tian Da, Tian Jo De, Tian Jo Dan Chiwa Me Da Wa Nim Do, Sik De Tuen Ane Gom Jam Na Ya Wun Do Ge.
And now, the next two verses which highlight perfect human rebirth and death and impermanence. We'll do those two verses and then reflect on them accordingly. This body of pleasure, more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, is found but once, so difficult to obtain again.
It finishes as quickly as lightning in the sky. Having reflected in this way, realizing that all worldly activities are like the red chaff, you must take its essence day and night. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Although there is no certainty that after death you will not be reborn in the bad migrations, the three rare sublime ones will definitely protect you from this fear. Therefore, steadfastly take refuge in them, and never degenerate their precepts. In addition, think well of the results of black and white karma. Think of the correct practice of that to be adopted and that to be rejected. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way.
아야 다들 된데 손도 신행 엔도메지 데미지 디지 조 군조스는 디지 점도 신데 디간 디 랍자냐바 메바차 디야 까나렌데레서 랑도 추신도라랑레서 스타디야 다조 지 간딜라야다 텐조텐지다 치오미다고 삼로 당연데 가르리고 라서나 디이게 곰잡에다 셈나라 다두르 가르지 레고 요래 람나라 봐 곰잡잡도 찍레고 다 곰잡잡잡네 찍고로 다와 디 가르 용고래서나 평균ing보디 텐조니가 첼라노메 일로콤메 치데나시에도 스타 텐조 텐지다 치오미다고 삼로 양세 땅제 곰연디 장가라 따체디 개정부 쇼다 레면도로 봐 체디 통동레샤 디지고들 깔레쇼 잡데나 아니 베 미경 춘주레 딜레 다 치말로 편바지 제고도 대치등에 아니 체침 다 두슬람나 야고도 하면서 체침마디 야고 영야 치지 체도에 체디 안아랑 룡아 저거디 야고 치기 인슬라비나 뜨네 베 야고도 알아
Mainly, we would question why we would reflect on perfect human rebirth and death and impermanence. What would be the purpose of meditating on those two verses we've just been through, reflecting on them? Where would we get to? Well, essentially, as stated in the three principles of the path, by reflecting on the perfect human rebirth, how it's difficult to obtain and easily lost, and death and impermanence will come, then you reverse clinging to this life. So then the main point here is to see that this life is not such a big deal, not so important in the context of future life. It is short, and it is more important to reflect on the future lives. So we should reflect like this. In order for the future life to go well, we have to protect this very life. And this very life means protecting the physical and verbal actions within it.
디 제원도다 체델랑은 삼바상보 채워야 들어와 레 까부 나고 그래서 레 까부 써야 돼 삼바상보 와 삼바상보당 안에 때지 지 삼발 흘려 갱이 라면다 용구로 와서 그래서나 겨왕아마 레망고 사사래 체대 챙고랭도 레망고 사사래 디 데비 용구래 데 내가 찍으면 가서 매 단단 내가 간주다고 소트웨어 말에 땡에디 용구래로 와 쟁이디 연대네 쟁이 개베 토보 개와치니 토보 쟁이 개와치야 그 토보로 봐 쟁이 개베 토보 아니 쟁이 엄바들 데베 제랑도 동해 용거래야 봐 동해 용구도 하다 쟁이 담아리 연대 동해 용구도 아니 동해 딕딥 참아야다 동해디 딕딥 다야 봐 그러면서 동해디 겨왕하며 수술 내기 딕딥직 봐 매버 차선 장마 차선 개 잡는 괜히 장마선은 강바 장마 차기도 동해 딕딥 참아야 아니 돌아 가고 검들 봐다 동해당 강 갱해들 연데 따야고 레선스 봐 따이나 아 레마서 말아지 따야고 레선스 따이나 다베 아니 될 로종 그냥네 요나 어딘데 연구였다 따디 개좀 버렸어 저거 요 말해
So in that sense, then, in the context of this life, the essential advice would be to seem to have a good heart in the context of doing virtues or non-virtues, being very relaxed, relaxed and having a good heart, because the conditions for difficulty come. That is the nature of things coming from past lives. You cannot stop it. So the point here is when difficulties come, to make the negativities a condition or a support so that they're virtues, so that they're virtuous for you. And also, secondly, when you do go through difficulties and sufferings, know that you are purifying past karmas that you have accumulated in past lives. As it is said, negativities and sufferings are like the brooms that sweep away the kleshas or afflictions as if you were cleaning your room. And thirdly, to rejoice, as it says in the mind training texts, when suffering happens, how wonderful that I am suffering.
세상 두스추나 네 드링디 먼저 셈바 경에 가르쳐나 셈데 마토고체 야고 데토비나 드링 기부 연구도 와 드링 기부 연나 산이 기부 연구도 알아 드링 니마데 셈바데 기부 연나 산이 기부 연구도 알아 아니 데스 셰드네 체데 기부 연나 겨와시마 기부 연연 버라고 다고 두세네 누구도 왔다 데르와
And if one has that attitude of being able to make the negativities work for you and not hallucinate around them, you will be happy today. And happy today means that naturally you'll be happy tomorrow. In that context, in this life, if you have a happy disposition, future lives you'll also be happy.
겨와시마 킬레베나 튼두지 겨레메나 레응엠바 세바데 단데 레가샹은 엠바 차로도 레응엠베 데비데 다 디버샥돔 쳔마도나나 겨왕암바 겨지마 튼두든데 겨랭거바 튼두레 겨랭베나 고 단당한도 셈상고 제바데게네 제바주든지 데버스데 야고 튼두 셈상보라 튼두네오 마니에 튼두 셈바상보든데 와 겨랭거도 지 룩소로든데 샤워소로 그래서 셈바 도서 네버 게게면도 시라시라 게게면도 튼두 키질레 겨레네 키 셈바상보든데도 아미 딩앙바든데 셈바상 상보도 아니 대셈바상we에도 코나 셈바상보 제대도 튼두데를 미가 사고 말어 셈바상보 제 별로 튼남 제 대대어디 겨사용 거로 아니 튼두르데데 나게 랭에베 디립도 사르데 랭에베 디립도 파조르데 야 덴로 밀레야 겨레야 용구여로 하고 저단 덴데 용구여레스로
And it is quite possible, in accordance with the karma that is similar to the result, if we don't purify the throwing karma that we might have produced and somehow end up in an animal body, but because we've been kind in this life, we might be born as an animal that doesn't tend to harm, like a deer or a sheep. Or there are some dogs that you can see that are very kind-hearted. So, and in that sense, those animals, although they have an animal body, they're not doing a lot of non-virtue. And when the non-virtue is exhausted of being in that body of an animal, again, they could take an upper realm. So that is there.
다음도 레스야디 컨데 삼마사 레스니데 톱침부 컨데 참마자 그즈데 신나야고도 와디 신야라단다 달랑림나라야네 단다 미겨워주딜레 시 삼바저와 타독시 근데 즉 연구도 와디 마지 도샤는 페이지 아니 레 톱치 좀 가가데 사가 유미 아니 소소 뒤준지 먼저 랭엠바든데 산자나 용운디 아니 디레디 톱침부마 차야랑 삼노 단단돌라
Now, in terms of how karma is created or accumulated and the power of it or not, I thought it would be good to go through that. That's important. And as it is laid out in the text here, the Lam Rim, we look at it in terms of the 10 paths of action, or 10 karmic paths of action, in terms of the basis, the intention, the action, and the completion of the action. So it's good that we know those things.
다당보 네 람림 섭제 마시샤 도샤나 네 미겨 주디나네 류지레 나버숨딩 ela 셰도 아디 레 지양 토네 셰용고레 소조버디 류지레는 소조버당 아니 마진발레 뭐 데벨로 와이엠바 디제나네 아니 소조버디 싱 파르올라 무스누고 요인자 아니 디부차용고 요레 제단 소조 응엘은 셰고 줌젠티데 레스로
So those paths of karmic actions are first laid out in terms of the non-virtuous ones. And the first three are physical, being killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. Why does killing come first? Because in terms of the weight of harming others, killing is the strongest. So it's first.
하들이야 시 제주 시 소주기 래 top 첨부 산라 제주 시 창고래 지나로 또 소주 레들라 디버 치중 담면도 용거와 디버 첨부 시사발라 제주 시 삼바 저와 타도 스타페지 시디 디게 시디 하고 시에는 리거다 디나라 나시 담면 망부지 요르들 디젠 시디 세워 하고 시엠베나 먼저 뒤중에 삼륜나는 예대야라 핀도 용거와
Now, what makes the karmic action complete, karmic path, or heavy, are when there are these four attributing factors with it, or four aspects. And those four categories are basis, attitude, performance, and culmination. Now, there are many subtle points about karma, but if one understands these basic four, it is good.
지단 시딜라 가르고 그래서는 소주세 시딜이야. 아니 소단 덴베 셈진이다. 소단 덴베 셈진. 다다가랑 디그리 왔고 소단 덴베 셈진. 차나디 시리.
Right, so looking at the action of killing, the basis is another living being, a being endowed with mind.
다 삼바딜라야다. 두시당 군론스 니자용 거와.
The second attribution of karmic path we said was in intention. Here, there's a twofold division of this. Kasa,
두시당 군론 배전데 지단다 딜라 숨미다 요다 니 디셰신.
So yeah, within intention, there's like discrimination and motivation. Okay, you could say, if we go further, there are three aspects to intention, but we'll keep it brief.
두시딜라 아니 두시 투바다 마투바다 딘데 용거바 두시 셈제라 셈제 마임바 두시바 셈제 마임바라 셈제 두시바 야 가시 미임바라 튜로임바 두시 튜들라 미 두시바다 아니 야 수수 세자다 수수 빈자든데 너르제 빈자든데 다리산에세 두시 투모도 담마제 용거여와 두시 투나 예바충원 용거여래와
Now this, within the intention to kill, we're talking about the perception. And this is a point that, you have to have a valid perception for it to be the full karmic weight. So for example, if you set out to kill a human, but instead you kill an animal, or if you kill a relative, you intend to kill one relative, but you kill another, then because you're mistaken with regards to the perception, the living being, it's not a full karmic act. Wait. Yeah, and this happens a lot, that you'll set out to kill a being, but you'll be mistaken with regards to whom you kill.
So
now, if you're non-mistaken with regards to the object of perception, in other words, if you kill whom you set out to, the infraction is greater. If you're mistaken with regards to the object, the fault or infraction is less.
tanda dushi dan ane nyumo siya de dushi nyumo kulon de la da pena nyumo da nyum tusum karun yo ro nyumo sun deja ji kunne la ba deja ji kunne la ne ane paru se ba de da din shiwe yong go ro din sa deja ji kunne la ba de shuk cham bo shi ro 먼저 지 수수 deja ge wang ge susu de ne ma du de paru se ya 다 되자 왕게 ngobola 되자 왕게 미세야 딘드라면도 여러봐다 대 미세야 될라 제가 되자고는 아니 세당 꾸네란스데 네 콘도사베 왕게세요 됐다 디베 하장도 보러봐 디무 꾸네란스데 네 메신베 몽베 왕게다 꾸네란바데와 다저 뇨모 되자 세당 디무 숨고 왕게 꾸론체네 용거라 아니 차도 용고여래 ngaje yung wer ta dinde gi nyomo to zo ta kulon le dina ne ta shedang ku ne lang ba de ta dukshu zi yor ya nya de deja ga nang ge ya chi kulon dukshu de shedang ku ne lang ne se ba de hajang ge diba cha zi yung go ra.
Now, within this understanding of intention when one kills, with the motivation has to be a particular type of afflicted mind. So you could kill someone out of desire, you could kill someone because they have things you want, you could kill someone out of hatred or being extremely angry, and that would seem to be the worst mind with which to kill them. And yet, further, you can kill them out of ignorance, jealousy, or pride. But amongst those, if you have a strong hatred and you take the life of another, that's the strongest affliction with intention. No.
Kulon de se ba de ba de da nga mi de se gi sen wa.
Motivation is quite easy to understand. You just have the thought, I'm going to kill them.
다 joba de la ya ani joba po dan joba ngobo serwa joba po de la sojo de la rang shen che de joba kharung wa tang zo mami ma gwen de pe nye ba chen mor ba
Yeah.
ma gwen de ani ma gwen de mami le ya chana mi se gore slavi de ta ma gwen de la ya diba shuk che ma gwen de la yor mami le ma gwen shuk cha yor da kola di yor wa khasa sendo gu kulon de yo ma se ani ko jo ma wan da lega chi wan lega kubo bodrwa ma mi le rawa yo marwa adin za da ima ma gwa khorang da ngo se yo mara ma mi men de jem se ge yorwa ine ya ma gwa la mi se be nye ba de jio yor da
Now, in terms of the actual action itself of killing, whether one does it oneself or sends another to do it, it is the same non-virtue, it's the same negativity. So, for example, if we have the example of a general or a military leader who sends out soldiers to kill, the soldiers are killing under the instructions of the general. In that sense, the soldiers are not free. Here, the general gets the karma of sending out the soldiers to kill, but in fact gets heavier karma because he's directed them.
ta ding san da be minister de be shina zo ro kunzu ka dang ro kunzu si gya ro cho jeng ro 자 kunzu be misu lang ma ngone de kunzu cha go da
And now it seems that a lot of karmic responsibility is falling on the prime ministers. Often they will hold this decision too.
kunzu digba shuk chim bu sa ni chi cha ya ge che de ne be sha dan je we lu ya le be zhen je nga de da de pen do chi dum ne shu che wa kunzu ro pen do che na hal le che re a pen do me je din de ge chi zu ming da ta gwa din de da na digba ha jang che me homeless mi de le ko digba cha ya da homeless de zo khalara din digor da shiru shiru che ya ge ya mar ta ko pe minister da ma pon da do zo ne lagwa de da ting sang an zo chong ge che de ne men da ma de se je mi che so ge do da do zo pe chi theng ge da mi so nye re da kan da ro do zo le yoro da pinsim da lagwa de men ka je mi se ya men so go da ting sang ro do zo da be jowa bore da do zo ro.
Okay. So, well, in that sense, then, if the people that go for Prime Minister are going for votes and canvassing and doing that with a lot of money, if they get to that position and they benefit others, they can create a lot of good karma. Conversely, if they canvass and get votes and become elected but do non-virtues that we've just mentioned, then it becomes very strong non-virtue. And it would be better if you were just a homeless person, because a homeless person is happy just when they get food. But these prime ministers, these military leaders, and also these business people that make arms to sell or chemical weapons, that falls under this kind of category of the performance of those types of non-virtue. It can do.
다 조회 오어디 가래라 윈디 조와 뽀티지 조회 오어디는 천자 두메레 나 텐데 이거네 다베 자릭치야도 들어와다 디게 상만 디 조회 오어디로 다
So
바로
we've just talked about the person who does the act of killing or sends others to do so, and the, what would you say, the way it's done could be weapons, poison, just like that, guns, whatever.
다 타둑데 아니 조와디 겐셴으로 와다 당보 시디 삼바 군론 되자시나 디무 그 아니 군엘라니 다 조와체 예 조와디체 군론 선데 요체 아니 디네 다 쳔나레 두기나레 메나레 겹 디겐셴니 아니 미디 시베이나 소마 가스나나 다 타둑 두레 다디 하장게 디게디 시디 창스나나 아니 디버 빼쳔보레다 간다로
So then the culmination would be when that being dies before you, the being that you've intended to kill. So you've thought about the action. The thought or intention has been together with an afflicted mind. It's been acted out, and the completion has been reached. So if all of those four are there, like basis, intention, action, and completion, then the karmic path is a strong karmic path of killing.
다 디나는 제가 삼로 망보다 요래다 배나 먼저 딩사랑 시장이지도
Yeah.
두줄라야다 시창레 아니 삼바디 수수 센데 요러와 안 저번에 천자가 있나라 맨자가 있나데 지가 요러와 라시자 깨다자가 있나라 모라 당게 있나라 디 저러와 다 딜라야 아니 배제 타둑딜 다 미데 시바 짬 말해도 와 다디 시네 다 시바데 딕송 삼고 그래 다시 샤르와 내 저와도 제되니 소만 가고 짬 말해다 이도 다 딕샤 삼베 땅에 딱고 시샤섬 가고 공부해요 제 와 다시 예 데 란시자니 들 타둑데 창게요 말다 네
Now, there are things to contemplate around this. For example, in the case of a suicide, the person's basis is there, the motive is there, they're thinking to take their own life, and they will carry out that performance, action, whatever, using a rope or a car. But the completion is not quite there because they're not in the case where they're thinking, rejoice that someone else has died. You wouldn't think that for yourself. So I think here the complete karmic path is not there with suicide.
자단다 당보 양직 선도 군로 요는 변나 근데 얘네가 맨날 룩더버지 다 샥치디 룩세게 요너로 아니 시요레 삼바죠 타두상 타도 마르고 다 뺏어서 세주면서 봐 셈나라 교바제베이나 아니 타둑도 두고요 말아 그래서 당에 룩디 세주면 아까 천연 잡사버제로 아까 다 뺏어서 다들에 마선 다들 견에 마선 셈나라 교바제베이나 아니 룩 10베이나 시랑 그 천천히 잡네 디드 쪽니다 룩디 10베이나야 아니 룩 마시고나 수수선라 교바여베이나 아니 시타네 교바여베이나 아니 타도 두고요 말아 아니 소주디 양아여다 어딘데 쳐여다 셈베이나로
It's also good to know that if one were to kill a sheep, for example, all the four factors are present. The basis there, you've discriminated it's a sheep. You've thought to kill it. You have stabbed it with a knife. But just before it's completely dead, if you were to go, oh no, I shouldn't have done that. I have killed a sheep. And you were to have that regret at the action before the sheep dies. In that case, it is not a complete karmic act. And in fact, it becomes a lighter because of your regret.
모라다운로드 양 레곤다 부단데 세고도 다 드슬레 시요레 아니 군론 간도 센데 요 말이나 텔라 뇨모 요레 티무기 마신베 마신베 옹 세로다 와 텔라 되자던 콘도다 시나 요 말데 티무기 요레다 메신베 옹게 베 부요바데 메신베 옹게 세로와 아니 다도 두고 말다 나 센데 간도 센데 시질이 요 말아 봐 제단디 다 데리 가서 시단 좋아요레 델레 아니 삼바 군론다 다둑 두요 말이다. 어딘데 여다.
Other cases where we drive a car, let's say we hit a rabbit or an insect. The basis is there, but we haven't intended to do so. We haven't motivated to kill such creatures, but we are doing it out of unknowing. We're doing it out of ignorance. So here again, the full karmic path is not complete, and also the culmination is not there because we don't rejoice. We don't set out to harm and rejoice. So there are these mitigating factors.
다든다 시메베체로 니 군론 삼바 두시디게 된 유페나 게임디아도 항서 게임 우도 게임제 바로 다서 면다 잡직수 셈나라다 되도 다 되절라 시메베게 니 군다 군론 요래 두시 요래 저번이 다 면다 자가지고로 안 다둑들라 제수야로 때 디고 전부 차도 거다.
What would be an example of no basis? A video game. Okay, so there's no one you're actually killing, but you know the motivation to kill is there mentally. You've perceived in the game, and you're doing it with an affliction, and at the end of the game, you kind of rejoice. So it's still quite a strong non-virtue.
어디 소주 돌아 딘데 상로 먹고 다요라다 딘 투용 알아서 대제 상상을 지 탑장 장마스도요 부토마든데 세도 포버스 세든데 두두 지기도 안데 어다 이거는 주샤 지고 디버기다 소주 레 체가 상도 체가 상기요 말 체가 상고 말 제가 딘데 가둘라 아니 지 교바지야 되다 주샤지야 돼 약슈르로 베사송 세야스도 대 배하고요.
And it's good that we know these factors around killing. If we're cooking a meal in the kitchen and inadvertently we kill an insect, of course we didn't mean to, but we know that if we've made that mistake and there's regret around the action, that will really reduce what we've done. In terms of result.
다드네 니와 마짐발레 말와. 마짐발레들라 아니 시 삼바조와 다둑 제제다 시용거와 마질렘베 신이 아니 신지 용수 소면 제 로아다 시디 가르스나 미신지 다구체든 저 응오보 가르이나리 오다 와 디 시레다
The second karma of taking that which is not given or stealing has again these four factors present if it's complete karmic path of stealing. The first of which is basis, meaning that it is something owned by someone else that you wish for your own.
다 두시다 뇨몰라데 당기 소줄이 쉐오나 시리 두시투 신지젤 랑제 투베 신지제 랑제 마임버제 와시임벌 nguitu nguimbol setuba ta dinde tamanda yongorwa ani 뇨모네 되자 주군엘랑 시단 주군엘랑 티무 군엘랑 타다 군엘랑 디 용고여로다
Discrimination again, when it comes down to these intended things, you have to discriminate clearly what you are going to take, that it is who you're going to take from, and that it is the substance is in fact what you take, not being mistaken around it. But also when you take or are motivated to steal, it is going to be together with either of the invalid emotions we mentioned, desire, hatred, whatever of the afflictions we mentioned, jealousy, they could be present at the time of stealing.
굴론디 다디 간조 신고에 개좀 쇼래 굴론디 만나야 아니 8월에 태워대 왔으리 다들 굴론디 미신다게 나와 매베 토네와 아니 8월 응오버디 수수 태워 수수로 고어대 버디 굴론디르디 개좀 보러 가셔게 개말에서 기록도 디하고요 말이와 잘라 신주이나 술렁고이나 어디 수고고이나 아니 딩알 캐나 디그레베스 나와시위나 그 디그레라면 캐나 계속해는 마디 체험이나 양가 전부로
Okay. We have to be very careful around taking that which is not given. Because if you come across something and it's just a small thing and you think, oh, nobody owns that, I can take it without their permission, then that is still stealing.
다 저와들라 아니 양랑게 신라 쩨네 쩨요레와 아니 야 불륜로 같은데 야가 제제 요답기다 당부야 아니 제일 마대 비셔서 당부야 내가 제일 야로 아니 제일 마대 비셔 아니 신나라는 거야 딱 단다 두zu 베니가 저로 책에서 두zu 내가 전부로 구답
알레 디 팅상기 송바든죠.
정보도서 내가 배 전부로 봐 장부처가 장부인도 그 제가 그 태단 두zu 마대 전에 구마랑을 받아 뭔가
So then the performance, well, the performer is as before, the person who does it will send someone to do so. You can do it by robbing, like quite forcefully, or by stealth, or secretly, as it is said, subterfuge here. It's still stealing. And then there are people who deceive others through tax evasion and so forth, and they think it's clever. It's a type of stealing.
다둑 톱로 깨워 들어가 말라 중송 들어가 들어가다
Now, culmination is when you think, I got it.
다디 탑룩 톱도 계단들 양 배나 대여다 배나 먼저 미지게 미신다지 구멍구가 송하나 따로다 등산 된데 망고 열어와다 보스 직제 대월 미망고 구멍구니 열어다 아니 수수응에서 톱로마지나 미ፈ저 꾸니들 톱로게는 되게 열다 양데 와 하고 전에
Because accountant said.
토디 주고 배나르바다 와 먼저
Ngosma.
미니자라 또 톱로 여마르데 메 베샤군에 내가 지구마디 콜라 톱로게는 다가란 되게 열어 인지 민지게 다고 보스티게 배나 페미니스들 톱로 메베체 아니 메 구마군이들 톱로 옛날 다가 딕사라 콜라 톱로지 구 다둑 두고 왔다
Okay, so even if the person, like the accountant working for the boss or the undersecretary of the prime minister, does that stealing, then it's still stealing.
어디 다디 먼저 다 제 가셔게 다시 두즈릭두즈다 하고도 배낭은저 바주르도 모더게 네 라자소로도 두즈 냥가 잡으라 모달라자 남들라자 딘데 마데버치 가셔야 마데버치 배낭단당 언전 계급게 네 로비언도 야 마이트는 구마라다 계급 로비언 여러 하디 롭데 로비언도 마야 아니 제일 수수 배샤유나 야마데나나 구마 찾아다
Ale. So then it's also around borrowing and lending. So if money is borrowed but not paid back, and you know that you have to pay that back, but you don't, that is also stealing. And then in this case, students who owe the universities money from their college fee.
다데네 숨바 로그인로 되바 로그인 바스 로그인기 시디 아니 다 treasure 왜 품에다 겨와다 마닝 인사 마닝라디 열어 마닝라디 열어
Manishin?
마닝 폴로몰로
Apollo. So coming to the third infraction of body, sexual misconduct, the person with whom one should not have sexual intercourse, inappropriate body parts, and it says here Enox. Sorry. I'm sorry for that. The word in Tibetan is polomolo, which means having both organs.
마닝 요르고로
They can change between sexes. Oh, is it? Yeah. Thank you. Hermaphrodite.
다디 로그임들라 쿠딱 테즈마 쿠양하다 딘데 요레로 유단 두단 네단 딘데 베나 유디조 네 베나가조 단다 네스나 유스나 두조 베나 로벤당 캠보당 최딘당 아니 하간다 딘데 라 지기요레 네로 아니 두디 아니지 지 가서 품일 두고요 당 로? 아니 품일 딘데 가둘 부 고고에나라 요하다 저도 지고요로 아니 어딘데 요래 아니 어딘데 샤르와
Sexual misconduct, well, it is in some sense lighter, but it's still sexual misconduct. If it's done around a certain field, for example, an abbot, teacher, your guru, or within the constraints of a temple, it is stronger karma. And also in the time has a factor too. Like if you have sexual relations when a woman is pregnant and so forth.
다 녀몬들라 되자시다 디무스음다 지버레 다도 참여 요요체로
Now again, one is going to do the action with either of the disturbing thought obscurations, desire, hatred, jealousy, pride, all of those.
꿀론디 미자마 쩌어되바디 로
And the motivation is to have sexual misconduct relation.
다 저어디니 신 로윤 체드 쭉바야 쭉바볼다 로윤 체 중니들레 녀바 용고도 와디 로 니 죽어볼래야 제바 송버에서 다 로윤 로
And then it is complete, or the action is done when the inappropriate body parts touch. It is said mostly from the person doing the action.
다도니 네 엉부니니 되바서 되다 로
Yeah, the combination is when, the action or performance is done by the perpetrator, as it were, and the culmination, or completion is when the two organs touch.
로윤체 다 지난해 로윤 지난 단다 팀레다 고 팀게 지겨라로 팀게 지겨라 찍버라다
Yeah, now in general, we could say that sexual misconduct or adultery is controverting common laws as well.
다드네 준데마베 준마월로 준마베 시딜라 아니 신의 통화퇴베 제다가 넘버 치와 시바 시당 텔레도 보고서 고제유지 바로베 통고 데다 시디 아니 고제유지 바로베 통고 진지라 네 준마베 시리
Okay. Now, with regards to telling mistruths, the four of speech, firstly, lying, these bases eightfold. So that which was seen, heard, distinguished, and cognized, and saying that one didn't see, hear, distinguish, or cognize, or the opposite, that you had seen or heard when in fact you did not, and so forth, constitute the bases.
제단 딜라야 준데라 아니 고제유지 바로베 통고 와슬라비인데 인지민지 다고와라고 말해 류지 남주지
Okay.
통화다 퇴바던데 류지 남주지 거네 로아준 디 고야 여러바냐고
Yeah, so, lying doesn't have to be a sound from the mouth. It can also be a physical gesture. You can lie by your body language.
지단 값스다 나디 준디 나라 샤브레딜레 류게 남주게 준디야 여러로 차게면은 차기돈도 칼라스 신부여나 미델 칼라소닐 거면은 신부 민두돈도 가셔든데 지기도 알아
Yeah.
아니 야 신부 매나야 수수 미드 가야시디 신부 두세 신부다 요 말데 준시에제 더 상무 준으로 왔다 간다로
So, although it says these are infractions of speech, one can lie with bodily actions. You can feign being cold when you are not. You can make pretense that you don't like the food when you do. And you can make pretense that you like it when in fact you don't, to please a sponsor or whatever. These are lies. Yeah. And then you will discriminate, again, as with regards to the basis. So you'll discriminate that you've seen but you have not, heard that you have not, and so forth. You must clearly do that. Of course, when you lie, those afflictions are these three mental delusions.
Gulung dila dushi gyur di mawa de warwa. Dushi gyur si de ta yimbala mayimba yorwala mayiba derwa dushi gyur rwa.
Yeah. And then the motivation is to deceive, to say that you have seen when you have not, heard when you have not, and so forth. That's what you're thinking.
Ta dine jawala ne mawa ya, changma me jang tandu lemba, lu juwa sok, da cheza. Yame na ngos mewa, ma me jang mawa, pa mawa la tsompa, lu ji nam ju ta tindegi parabala ya, tuma kowa ina, jawara wa tu sama.
And the performance of the person doing the lie is when they do it either through speaking, choosing not to speak, or, as we mentioned, through bodily gesture.
타도데 parabala kowa dire, right?
And the culmination is when the other party has heard what you have said or not.
대체 되네 좀 담아 다 직접으로
Fiksura.
바로 통보시도 지나 다 참마다 직접이 안 됐다 다 참마다 직접대 단단 준시원한신 바링다 단로야 레송데
So these next two of divisive speech and offensive speech are really similar lying, isn't it? If we go through them.
참마 직접 다 이제 직접 지금 된 참마 직접 다 아게 로앙아게 나게 신이네 되면다 된바 나다 나게 지랍시나 준 참마 되죠 지난 참마서야 돼 데려봐 네 야고다 지난 참마디 말에단다를 당하러 준 참마 직 준체 참마 참마 단다 나게 넘버 시여와 신이버들와 참마서야 돼 아니 바로 참보도 마찬가지야 되더라 어디서 참마 쭉다 단다 저들 신다 준단다 더버더래 참으로
It would be good if we understood that the second infraction of speech, divisive speech, is when you split a party or peoples that are harmonious. That's what we should take mainly from divisive speech.
근데 정말 직접래다 직접당은 되긴 셔야 하고 그러다 시점부 저것도 지버래 아니 나게 되다 시들라 때 시다금도 와다 시턴다 면조 턴다 면조시 고거다 나게 시들
Well, the third speech one is pretty self-explanatory, harming others with speech. The fourth of idle gossip or senseless speech is a little bit different from the basis. It has to be when you talk about something with no meaning.
근데 다 진다도 다 되자시나 지버시 꿀론데라 아니 마데베 중계도 마어데 왔어 마데버스 때 등고에네 주다 단당고에네 딱가서 직배 팬도 메뉴다 팬도 외와다 마데와 팬도 큐는 면조지 중계도 마어서 때 간단지 다가 sigma된 것도 어디래
So afflictions are going to be similar, but the motivation behind idle speech or senseless speech is really that it has no correlation with reality, and it will not benefit other to say so, what you're talking about.
되네 타두데 나게메 심바드레다 다도 현산은 살다
And the completion is when it's slipped out of the mouth, it's too late.
어디 디제디 루지 남았으면 넘버 시치지 룽아게 본 듄스데 다디 듄디 캐치 슈티기 요르다 좀 된데 이딜라 캐치 뭐 슈제요르다
Now we've just been through the first of the 10 non-virtues, the 7, the 3 of body and the 4 verbal non-virtues, and Lord Buddha highlighted these as being very important.
가르스나 디제 듄게 다 파르발롱 뭐던 주베고는 배숙 전부 슈지네로고 요르와 디리
The reason being that these 3 of body and 4 of speech directly and indirectly harm other beings the most.
저는 디인디당 안한저 네 루이 남았으면 넘버 시디 다 수수 삼로 당 데다 지 닝지단 데네 아니 무슨 이미 야고시도 와 닝지 매웨이나 나양데 직패 심나 뇌숙래야다 마지블래야 냥가도 와 닝지단 타네 바로 동해서는 동해기 주단체 아주 mellam 제거여와 근데 제어되네 제 룽하게 봉 되는데 재미라 닝지 군의 람베이나 아니 tomba sunga di susu sena lodop dang, kawa dang, dewa dang, ane. Tende yunga yungu yor da khandarwa.
And in that sense, it is not just enough to be aware of the misconduct, but to keep to keep the conduct together with compassion. Because we always pray, don't we? Oh, may all beings be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. And if you guard your body and speech vis-a-vis these 7 non-virtues as virtues, then you will be acting in a virtuous way. You'll have courage, you'll have peace, bliss.
Tangzo di ki di tuma tumbe tsamdi tenshina. Lamdi dudu.
So now we'll leave off by reciting, what have we got left, the remaining verses.
Chilo shina yabudo.
Bottom of page 5.
Yeah, bottom of page 5.
Yeah.
Till you attain a body with pure characteristics, you will not make progress in your practice of the Supreme Path. Train in the causes for becoming free from those impurities. Since your 3 doors are defiled by negative actions,
downfalls, and stains, it is particularly important to
purify karmic obscurations.
Therefore, continuously cherish reliance on purification with the 4 forces. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. If you do not put effort into completing samsara, you will not develop the wish for liberation. If you do not contemplate true origins, the steps for entering samsara, you will not understand how to cut the roots of samsara. Therefore, rely on weariness, definite emergence from samsara, and cherish the knowledge that finds you to samsara. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. The generation of the mind is the central post of the Mahayana path, the base and support of great waves of conduct, a philosopher's stone transforming all into the 2 collections, a treasure of merit gathering infinite virtue. Having understood this, the heroic children of the conquerors maintain deeply the pledges of the precious Supreme Mind. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Generosity is a wish-fulfilling jewel satisfying the hopes of transmigratory beings, the supreme weapon cutting the knot of miserliness, the activity of the children of the conquerors that strengthens courage without dismay, and the basis of being renowned in the 10 directions. Having understood this, the wise rely on the excellent path of giving away their bodies, possessions, and virtue. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Morality is water cleansing the stains of faulty behavior, moonlight dispelling the hot torment of the afflictions. As splendid as Mount Meru in the midst of the 9 types of beings, it gathers all transmigratory beings with no dread of force. Having understood this, holy Gurus guard morality, correctly taken, as been with your eyes. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Patience is the finest ornament of the powerful, the supreme of the hardships and afflictions, a Garuda against the enemy, the snake of hatred, and thick armor against the weapon of harsh speech. Having understood this, cultivate the armor of supreme patience in many ways. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. When you don armor like effort, steady and immovable, the qualities of scripture and realization will increase like the waxing moon. All your behavior becomes meaningful, and whatever actions are undertaken will be accomplished as desired. Having understood this, the conqueror's children put forth billowing waves of effort, dispelling all laziness. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Concentration is a king ruling the mind. When placed, it is as movement When set forth
Dana
in
sangye
the
nawa
in
chi
all
shen chugu
virtuous
nyumu
objects,
tongwa nami.
it induces the great bliss of the serviceable body and
Dana
mind.
sangye nawa chi
Having
shen chugu
understood
nyumu
this,
tongwa
the
nyama.
Lord severely is relying continuously on the meditative
Sangye nawa chi
stabilization
shen.
that destroys the enemy, distraction. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Wisdom is an eye-seeing profound thusness, the path eradicating the root of existence, a treasure of qualities praised in all the scriptures, and renowned as the supreme of lamps dispelling the darkness of ignorance. Having understood this, the wise who desire liberation generate the path with much effort. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. One point of concentration the learned is not considered to be able to cut the roots of samsara. Wisdom separated from the path of karma body will not pervert the afflictions no matter how much you analyze. Having mounted the wisdom that reflects on the real mode of existence upon the horse of steadfast karma body, with the sharp weapon of the logic of the middle way free of extremes, destroy all mental fabrications grasping at extremes. With vast wisdom analyzing in this way, increase the wisdom that realizes thusness. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. The meditative stabilization achieved by long points of meditation is not enough. The individual investigation of proper analysis generate the meditative stabilization that abides firm and immovable on the mode of existence. Having seen this, understand how wonderful are those who endeavor to complete the union of karma body and special insight. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. In meditative equipoise, emptiness is like space. In post-meditation, emptiness is like an illusion. Through meditation on both method and wisdom are unified, whereby the perfect conduct of the conqueror's children is praised. Having realized this, the tradition of those of good fortune is not satisfied by either path alone. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way.
And
Having generated the common path necessary for the two supreme Mahayana paths, causal and resultant, rely on the protector of skillful master, and enter the great ocean of the classes of Tantra. Then, through reliance on complete and perfect instructions, make the attainment of your leisures and endowments meaningful. You, the perfect Guru, practiced in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way. Due to the virtue from explaining in clear words the perfect complete path pleasing to the conquerors, so as to familiarize my mind with it, and to benefit others of good fortune, I make the prayer that all transmigratory beings never be parted from the excellent pure path. You, the perfect Guru, practice in this way. I, who am seeking liberation, will also practice in this way.
Do you have question? Okay.
I have one question. It was at the beginning when we were talking about the killing, and there's no basis, let's say,
Video game.
in the video game. What if I'm killing somebody in my mind? You know, not that I do it, but not that if I kill somebody, is there also no basis, or is there actually a basis?
Kishla sokche bile di nganso di shi me be yudu kana video game nang la mise or ba
Really?
morangi sem nang la mise ne di jobu jobu de ngosu ma se na yang le sa ba
Di le sala macheva cher masa. Sala macheva sa direda. Le sala macheva sa dirwa.
yeah. So this is, sorry, the question again is that, like the video example, if you were to kill someone in your mind, but not actually kill them, is that the same as the video example? Vis-a-vis, there's no basis there. This is accumulated karma which is not done. Yeah. Yep. It's accumulated, but it's not done.
Karzane shiyo marade.
Yeah. See on that. Yeah, because there's no basis.
Okay, throw here now.
Page 31 for the short mandala.
ye be ye jung shi me do zhang re ra ren shi nin di gen san ji xin di mi di e wa ye zhe gu nam da gu zhe rab dian xian nang ga ten le cho ju jie wa tang lo san dian bei zhe le wei me se da do ne ju qi gu re ren ne men de la kam ni ya da ya mi.
Page 33, Prayers of Dedication. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions,
Sa di
may I
yi
put
de
three
da na
things
ma ni
straight
re ju
before
ju
the
do
Buddha,
chi ju ma
and
re
may
ma
all
di
living
ma
beings
da
without
ma re
exception
sha
be without
ma
enlightenment
ju
state. May the supreme jewel, bodhicitta, that has not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish but increase more and more. Whatever slight positive potential I may have created, by paying homage, offering, and acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas say and teach, I now dedicate all this to full awakening. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praises the best by the victorious ones thus gone in the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble body's atlas deeds. May the King of Dharma Tsongkhapa's way of Dharma practice flourish. May the omens of obstacles be pacified, and all the conducive circumstances be complete. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, inherently kind, cleansing depth, so I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is unification of emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subdued's moral way, who serve the doubtful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. By relying on the true accumulations of myself and others in the 3
chanju
times,
simni pyo
you
lan
may
chi di
teach
ba
me
ji gu
to
ma chi
conquer